DIA Toothpaste Fluffy Slime is a fun-loving magical creature from another dimension that looks like a mixture of toothpaste and slime. With his mission to protect the world from evil, he must also find a way back home. He finds a portal in an arcade. The arcade guardian slime sits on a chair outside the portal. He's been waiting for someone to come through this portal for 69 years. He asks DIA if he can help him get home, but in exchange, he needs DIA to help him defeat the evil Cyber King Slime. The Cyber King Slime is trying to take over all of the arcade games and use their power to rule the multiverse. DIA agrees and they go through the portal together. When they arrive in the arcade, they notice that it's not just any ordinary arcade. It's full of magical creatures playing games. There are harpies shooting hoops with a basketball, kobolds playing Pac-Man, goblins playing Space Invaders, and even a hydra playing Galaga. But none of them seem very good at it. As soon as Cyber King sees DIA, he tells the arcade games to attack. They try to capture DIA with their claws and teeth, but he dodges out of the way. He fights back by squeezing into their keyholes and pushing their buttons. Then he and the arcade guardian work together to take down the Cyber King and his army. In the end, Cyber King gets sucked into a crane game and becomes a prize. DIA wants to thank the arcade guardian for his help, but he says that he's already been paid in full. He then gives DIA a coin to put in the UFO catcher machine so that he can choose any prize. The top prizes are all taken, but DIA chooses a little stuffed dragon that no one else wanted. He names her Sparky and she becomes his best friend. As the Guardian prepares to send DIA home, he reveals that he has a name and it's Billie Eilish. DIA didn't realize it before, but looking back, there were lots of clues. For example, when he first arrived in the arcade, he asked DIA if he could help him get home. And the portal had a sign above it that said "Do not touch." Also, earlier when DIA was fighting the harpies, one of them threw a ball at him and shouted, "Get behind me, Dexter." And when DIA defeated the kobold, he told him, "You're going down, Alex." That means all the magical creatures knew who DIA was. They probably knew he was destined to be the hero of some prophecy or something. That's why they let him win all the games. He wasn't really that good. DIA says goodbye to Sparky and returns home. His family and friends are all worried about him because he was missing for 3 days. 3 minutes. DIA says that he went on an exciting adventure, but he doesn't tell them about the portal or the magical creatures. Instead, he just says he went to a faraway land where everything was made out of candy. He got captured by gingerbread men and fought off an army of gumdrop monsters. Then he found a magic lamp with a genie who granted him 3 wishes. DIA used his wishes to make everyone in his town a giant bouncy castle, a talking unicorn, and a lifetime supply of pizza. Then he woke up and realized it was all just a dream. But here's where things get weird. Earlier, we saw that when DIA squeezed into the keyhole of the basketball hoop, it caused the harpy to miss. Then later, when DIA and the arcade guardian were fighting the Cyber King, DIA noticed that all the games were glitching. So he pushed the reset button and that gave him an idea. If he played the games instead of just destroying them, maybe he could get the Cyber King's attention and take him down that way. That's what he did. He played Pac-Man until he reached level 256, which was the highest level. Then he went to Space Invaders and shot every single alien. He moved on to Galaga and rescued all the captives. Then he went to the claw machine and grabbed the Cyber King's crown. This made the Cyber King appear. He was very angry that someone had taken his favorite hat. So he attacked. After the battle, the Cyber King was defeated and de-energized. When the Guardian asked him what he was doing here, the Cyber King said he wasn't sure. One moment, he was ruling the multiverse, the next he was stuck in a game of Operation. That doesn't make sense. Did he really travel to another dimension just to play games? What if he was only here to get a prize from the claw machine? After all, it did seem pretty suspicious that all the top prizes were taken. Could it be that the Cyber King was the one who took them? Maybe he wanted to use the toys to hold the multiverse hostage, or maybe he just wanted to play with them. Who knows? All we know is that when the Cyber King was young, he was just a slime like the rest of us. But then he discovered he had powers beyond our wildest dreams. The other slimes tried to stop him, but it was too late. He used his powers to enslave them and bend them to his will. He created an army of cyborg slimes and took over every arcade in the multiverse. Then one day, He encountered a group of kids who didn't seem to mind being enslaved. They were laughing and having fun. It turned out they weren't real kids. They were magical harpies disguised as humans. They were playing games to test the Cyber King's skills. They challenged him to beat their high scores, and he accepted. At first, he was winning easily, but then the harpies started cheating. They used their magic to make the games glitch and freeze. The Cyber King was furious, but he couldn't do anything about it. In the end, they wiped the floor with him and he stormed off in defeat. That's when he decided to destroy the arcades and build his own amusement park. It would be called Cyber World, and it would have rides and games that no one could beat. Then he could finally be the happiest slime in the multiverse. But while he was building his park, a group of rebels attacked him. They were led by a powerful wizard named Gandalf the Grey. He used his staff to blast the Cyber King with an electric shock and sent him flying into a portal. The portal took him to a different dimension, a dimension without magic or technology. Here, the Cyber King met a friendly slime who helped him get his bearings. The slime introduced himself as DIA Toothpaste Fluffy Slime. He was amazed by the Cyber King's powers and begged him to teach him how to use them. The Cyber King didn't want to at first, but then he thought, why not? Maybe having a sidekick would make him less lonely. So he agreed to train DIA. Together, they set out to find a way to bring the Cyber King back home. They traveled to many different worlds and dimensions, but no one could help them. Finally, they arrived in a magical forest where the trees could talk. The forest told them about a portal hidden in the roots of the oldest tree. It was guarded by a powerful creature known as the Arcade Guardian, who would only allow the pure of heart to pass through. DIA was scared at first, but then he remembered what the forest had said. Only the pure of heart could pass through. That meant if he wasn't pure, he wouldn't get through. And he knew he was pure because he'd never stolen a soda from a vending machine, never cheated at a game, and never skipped out on paying for pizza. He was as pure as the driven snow. So he walked up to the portal and entered. On the other side, he found himself in an arcade. The games were old-fashioned, but they looked like they hadn't been played in a long time. The only sound was the hum of the machines and the distant chatter of customers. DIA wandered around, mesmerized by the flashing lights and jingly sounds. He'd never seen anything like it. Suddenly, he heard a voice behind him. So you must be the one. DIA turned around and saw a slime sitting on a nearby stool. He introduced himself as the Arcade Guardian. He'd been waiting for someone to come through the portal for 69 years. DIA asked if he could help him get home, but the Guardian shook his head. He said only someone who had defeated the Cyber King slime could open the portal again. DIA had no idea who that was supposed to be, but he was determined to find out. He thanked the Guardian for his help and set off to explore the arcade. As he made his way through the rows of games, he heard cheers and laughter. At first, he thought it was coming from the customers, but then he realized it was coming from the machines themselves. The games were alive. As he approached a basketball hoop, he heard a voice say, "Hey, watch it, rookie. You almost hit my back, bud." Startled, DIA looked up and saw a harpy sitting on the rim of the hoop. She had sharp eyes and talons and a beak that could pierce the toughest hide. "I'm sorry," DIA stammered. "I didn't mean to." "Don't worry about it," the harpy said with a wink. "Just try not to break any more of my equipment, okay?" DIA nodded and moved on. He came across a Pac-Man machine and the ghosts that inhabited it. They were blue, pink, orange and red, and they were chasing a yellow circle around the screen. "Hey newbie," one of the ghosts said. "What's your high score?" "I don't have one," DIA replied. "I've never played before." "Well, that won't do," said another ghost. "You gonna have to step up your game if you want to join our team." And with that, they zoomed away, leaving DIA to fend for himself. He wandered through the arcade, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, he heard a crash and turned to see a kobold riding a motorcycle. The kobold was green with scaly skin and sharp teeth. He was trying to start a game of motorcycle racing, but the screen was dead. "Great," he muttered. "Just great." DIA walked up to him and asked if he could help. "What?" "Oh, sure," the kobold said. "It's just that this game is cursed. Nobody can beat it." "That doesn't sound fair," DIA said. "Can I try?" "Be my guest," the kobold said with a shrug. DIA put on a helmet and sat on the bike. He pressed the gas and raced down the highway. At first, he was shaky, but then he started to get the hang of it. He dodged traffic, jumped ramps and raced past the finish line. The crowd cheered and the kobold stared in disbelief. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it. I can't believe it myself," Dia said. "I never thought I could be so cool." The kobold smiled and extended a hand. "I'm Alex," he said. "Wanna go again?" Dia spent the next few hours playing games and meeting new friends. He met a goblin who loved space and a hydra who was obsessed with rescuing princesses. They were all members of the Arcane Guild, a secret organization dedicated to protecting the multiverse from evil. DIA had stumbled upon them by accident, but they were happy to have him. Suddenly, a klaxon sounded and the games went dark. "What happened?" Dia asked. Alex looked grim. "It's him," he said. "The Cyber King." The games flickered back on and the Cyber King appeared on the screen. "Hello, little slimes," he said. "I've been watching you and I must say you are disappointingly average. I challenge you to a contest of skill. If you win, I will leave you alone. If I win, you will join me in my amusement park." Dia felt a surge of anger. He might be an ordinary slime, but he wasn't going to let some punk cyber bully him. "Bring it on," he said. The Cyber King laughed and the games began. First up was basketball. Dia stepped up to the free throw line and sank the ball. The harpy cheered and gave him a thumbs up. Next was Pac-Man. Dia ate all the dots and avoided the ghosts. Then he came to the motorcycle race. He revved the engine and raced ahead. But suddenly the screen went blank. The Cyber King had shut it down. Dia looked around frantically. Where was he supposed to go next? Alex came up to him and whispered, "There's one more game. It's hidden in the basement." Before Dia could ask any more questions, the Cyber King appeared again. "Time for the final showdown," he said. "In Space Invaders, the last game standing. May the odds be ever in your favor." With that, he vanished and the game began. Dia raced down the stairs and into the basement. The air was stale and dusty, and the only light came from the flickering screen. He stood before a crane game and reached for the lever. The Cyber King's voice echoed around him. "Do your worst, slime." Dia closed his eyes and concentrated. He felt a surge of power course through him. When he opened his eyes, they glowed with a bright light. With a flick of his wrist, he sent the claw hurtling toward the prize. It snagged the toy and lifted it free. Dia grinned as the Cyber King's voice crackled with static. "No, this can't be happening." He watched as the claw gently placed the toy in his hands. It was a small stuffed dragon, no bigger than his thumb. "Thanks," Dia said to the crane game. "Nice knowing you." He turned and raced back to the arcade. There, the Cyber King was waiting, his face pale and drawn. "You may have won the game," he said in a low voice, "but I still control this arcade. I can crush you with the force of 1,000 suns." "Maybe you can," Dia said, "but you won't." With that, he dropped the stuffed dragon. The dragon grew larger, its wings beating the air as it soared toward the Cyber King. The Cyber King screamed in terror as the dragon engulfed him and drained his power. With a final roar, the Cyber King vanished, leaving behind only a trail of smoke and a faint smell of ozone. Dia stood there, panting, as the arcade came back to life. The games whirred and clicked, and the crowds cheered. He had done it. He had defeated the Cyber King. The Arcane Guardian appeared beside him, his eyes wide with surprise. "You did it," he said. "You defeated the Cyber King." "I couldn't have done it without you," Dia replied. "Thank you for helping me." The Guardian nodded and gestured to the portal. "Go on," he said. "It's time to go home." As Dia stepped through the portal, he turned to look back. The arcade was gone, replaced by a blank wall. He sighed. It had been an amazing adventure, but he was glad to be home. He hugged his mom and dad, and they never let him out of their sight again. Well, maybe once. Just once.